Got it.
Yeah. I'm wildly unprepared for this, so I think we're recording. And Matt, throw us a question.
Wait, are we actually recording?
Yeah, we are. Okay, so welcome back.
So I should close this tab that's like thick, big booty Latinas.
No, that's right.
That's up to you.
With the black and orange logo.
I have a couple. Yes.
Oh.
No.
We are back for some very serious shooting discussion once again on whatever our name is now, Raw Time Champ. All right, I think tonight we're gonna do a question and answer episode and see where that goes. So Matt, what do we got on the list?
Yeah, I got like 2 pages. So, all right, Coy, how can I take my aggression in practice to matches?
Stop being a bitch. Wait, are these supposed to be intelligent answers?
I mean, that is
okay. Here's the 30-second answer. You have to decide what you want to do when you're trying to improve something specifically. You have to do one thing or the other. Don't try to do like 10 things. Like you can either be controlled or you can be aggressive. You can't be aggressive and controlled. So if you're trying to figure out how to carry your aggression, that means you're already too controlled. Just stop being a bitch. You're gonna shoot mics. You're gonna shoot errors. Just take the notes and don't be a pussy.
That's a good answer. I like that.
Let's go for it. Yeah. Calvin,
Yep.
what steroids?
That's what I've been
need
doing.
Calvin, what steroids do I need to take to improve my vision focus?
What do you need to take?
What steroids do I need to take to improve my vision focus?
I don't know. Why would you ask me that question? I don't take
Because
steroids.
you're the one with glasses on. That's why.
You have glasses on too.
Yeah, but I'm a GM.
Yeah, you have
that's
glasses as well.
Oh shit.
Wow.
Unexpected. I'm taking notes. That's what GM glasses look like.
I don't think there is a steroid you can take. At least for me personally, the vision journey has been a very slow one, which consists of, I guess, being very observant in dry fire and making sure that I'm looking specifically at the individual points on a target. My tendency is to look at brown and pull trigger. I'm what you would call like a hoser. So for me, I have to really fight that and make sure that I use my eyes with precision. And I don't know if it's the same for everybody else. Like I don't know what turtles have to deal with, but that's kind of like my battle personally. So this can be practiced with just targets without a gun, where you just look at the specific points on targets, transitioning from target to target, and you want to do that with not only just targets themselves at different sizes, but also at different depths. So that way you're changing focal depths.
For turtles, it's more like trigger break exit. Just look sooner.
Okay, there you go.
All right.
I think if you're a turtle, you'll still look at the whole, like at least for me, I'm naturally that way and I still look at the whole target. But the problem is you look at the whole target and then you zoom in on a small spot so you can shoot good points. But that's like just as bad of a problem, right? So instead of looking at the whole target and then zooming into a small spot, you just snap your vision to the small spot first, rather than having it be a 2-step thing. You'll also be inclined to get sucked into the sights or the dot. So like what Calvin said, you just have to like be actually paying attention to what you're doing and break those habits. There's no like shortcut.
Yeah, I think I went for a long time not even realizing I was doing it because I just didn't, pay attention.
All right, Connor, this one's for you since you like to beat yourself up a bunch. Is it hard to teach the mentally handicapped to shoot effectively?
Did you go for that because he's the mental handicap one?
Yeah, I feel like that was a targeted question. I'm a little offended, but yeah. No, I don't know. I've never taught a mentally handicapped person except for myself. and it was no harder than anything else I've ever done. So, yeah, I don't pass.
I'm not sure any of us really know, so that's gonna have to be a pass on that one.
I mean, I've come
I think-
close,
so-
but I don't want to
so,
talk
like,
about it.
So like jokes aside, right? Like probably it's if you're struggling with something, be more open-minded about it. Be more experimentative. If you're shooting USPSA, you're probably not in school anymore. But if you're doing the same thing and you're like, oh, why aren't I getting better? It's because you're acting mentally handicapped and you're expecting a different result from the same thing. So if something sounds outrageous or outlandish, give it a shot, but do it in a controlled fashion. I mean, it seems like pretty obvious stuff, but say it aloud. And I don't know, Matt, Connor, Calvin, you guys probably do some version of this, right? Like, hey, can I leave this thing earlier? Oh, I shot 2 mics off on the on the side of this thing. I probably can't leave earlier, but how much can I leave earlier? Like stuff like that. Like it shows up in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, I think a key thing is you like this kind of comes back to what Calvin was just saying. You need to be paying attention. Like if you're just shooting mics all over the place and you don't know why, then that's a big problem. But if you're shooting mics because you're being extra aggressive and you're like kind of finding the limits of what you can do, then that's not necessarily a problem. I mean, you don't want to shoot mics, but you're learning. So there's like I think actually paying attention to what's going on and what you're doing is like the key thing there. If you're just going to a match and running around like your hair's on fire, you're not doing anything. If you're in practice and just going through the motions, doing a million reps, but you're not actually paying attention, you might as well not be practicing.
Do you guys give yourself limits on how many things you try to be attentive to at once? Do you ever work on like just one thing, or do you work on like maybe a handful of things is okay, or are you open to just anything in general?
Usually, I'll just work on something like raw speed. Like, hey, what can I get with this kind of time? All right, how do I get this kind of time while also grabbing points? Basically, it leapfrogs back and forth.
Do we do it?
Yeah, my process is the speed. I'll either do it, work on the speed itself, or doing it properly by itself. Whether that's like getting index points in the correct position or getting vision index in the right position. But yeah, I don't do multiple things at once. It doesn't tend to work out.
Okay, next one. Sight picture management when shooting on the aggressively. My take on it is still there. All right. Anyway, sight picture management when shooting on the move. You just have to consistently look at the spot that you want. That's pretty much what it is. Calvin, you have anything for shooting on the move?
What was the question again?
Yeah, the sight picture management was kind of a weird phrase for me too.
How do you manage it?
How do I don't really manage the sight picture itself. Like I don't try to make it do anything. What I will do is I will shoot when the sights are on. That makes sense. Like when they come on target. So it's like it's on the target for like a very brief, like moment in time, and that's my opportunity to pull a trigger. And then ideally I'd do it again when the sight's back on.
But basically confirmation too.
Yes. Well, I mean, I can use multiple different levels of confirmation depending on how difficult the shot is. Like you can use confirmation 1 for shooting on the move if it's close enough, and there are times I'm not sure how much like how beneficial it is, but there are times where I've used a confirmation 3, and you can debate whether it's worth it based on how slow you're moving, but it can be done on the move.
All right. Yeah, that works. Coy, what is your favorite way to stay cool during hot matches?
Well, I'm an expert
have-
at this.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, but but you're not bougie enough, Calvin. God damn it.
Okay,
Right.
I'm good at being poor and doing it.
So go find a fan from your local hardware store, big box store, whatever. What are these things called? Like Ryobi's and
Hockey.
what's the other tools? Like Bosch. Like everyone makes some kind of 18, 20 volt fan. Buy one of these fucking things. Bring it to you with matches. Always sit under shade. Cooling towels are extremely helpful. Make sure you drink enough water. If you don't wear a hat, don't be fucking retarded. Wear a hat. What else?
Umbrella.
Yeah, umbrella. Yes, thank you.
Especially
You have to be really dedicated to sitting down and out of direct sunlight as much as possible. Like it doesn't mean that you don't have to help like avoid resitting, but you have to actively try to like avoid the heat.
I reset with an umbrella now. I don't care what people call me.
Wait, do people say something about umbrella people?
I think so. I think it's kind of looked as like kind of LGBTQ-ish.
Oh, also like one other thing. If you're constantly crying about the heat, you probably need to spend time in the heat to be heat conditioned. It's definitely a thing. So if you only practice indoors and then you shoot outdoor matches, go practice outside or something. You'll get used to it.
moisture
Yeah,
wicking in operative clothing helps as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And
Oh, yeah, proper clothing.
it's
That's huge.
very unfashionable, but like white sleeves, like if wearing like the arm sleeves, like that stuff, instead of wearing what do you call it, full torso compression shirts, those are actually much cooler as well. And then not wearing dark colors. So unless you're trying to like look like AMU, probably find like a white shirt. Yeah, you'll get it dirty because you're gonna go shoot a match, but it's considerably cooler.
I find having a cooler with you helps. That way it keeps your water cool or cold, and then you have instant access to cold water for your cooling towels. I know some people bring like a water jug or water bottles without them, like they warm up during the day, but you'll keep yourself cooler if you drink cold water.
Connor, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I think what Corey was saying is like just like go exercise in the heat or something, kind of like acclimate it before summer gets in full swing, and then obviously hydrate the day before. Makes a big difference.
On
Yeah.
big matches, like multiple day matches, I'll hydrate. I'll make a conscious effort to hydrate the week of or the week prior.
Always important. All right,
Electrolytes,
it's what plants crave.
yes.
What does it take for you to give up and move on from a platform? And what I think that's referring to is what would it take for you to move on to a different gun entirely?
If things are
Anybody?
breaking so often that it's like hindering your ability to practice, that's probably a big deal.
Yeah, or if you couldn't consistently get parts, like I don't really see this happening, but let's say like Glock came out with Gen 6 and they just completely stopped making parts for Gen 5 and they were different enough that it was, that parts didn't cross over, then obviously if you shot a Gen 5 Glock, you'd want to buy a Gen 6 or something else. Not that that's going to happen with Glock, but it could happen with a lot of other guns.
That would make me cry.
Or if a certain manufacturer's barrel breaks at 20,000 rounds a lot, that might make you want to switch platforms. Or if
Which
the extractors quit
manufacturer is
working.
that?
I don't know. Couldn't tell you.
I was gonna
But
say
yeah,
it rhymes with, but then I opted against.
No, let's not. Let's not. I guess. And then if you change a division, let's just say you go from production to single stack, yeah, that's going to force you to change. Or if you're going open, you should probably not shoot, frankly, an open block.
why are open Glocks bad for people who don't know?
History of blowing up extractors and that kind of stuff. So just pick something that works for the division.
Yeah,
Sounds like
that
something a
works.
snobby 2011 shooter would say.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club, Matt.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we're all snobby 2011 shooters now.
Yeah,
Connor.
I don't own it yet.
Oh,
I'm the
okay.
last holdout.
You have a 1911. Yeah, you have a semi-custom gun.
Yep, he has multiple 1911s.
I do actually.
All right. I guess this could be an open one for everyone. What is an opinion you have on training that's unpopular with other serious shooters?
With other serious shooters?
Or at least like what's an opinion that you have that's divisive among, like, say, some of the top shooters?
Oh.
Like you agree on one side of the fence or the other, maybe.
Huh. That's
Thought
a good
occlusion?
question.
That seems to be pretty split.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Wait, are you for or against?
I'm for it. I mean, yeah, I'm for it. It seems to help me like find my mistakes when I.
Is that
Uh,
even
s-
I'm against
divisive
it.
anymore? Are you
It's
really?
just point shooting. Yeah, I don't know why anyone would do that.
There's what else is the divisive issue?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a controversial opinion that I have. Or at least something that's controversial amongst people that are good.
I mean, what is there even?
I don't know.
There's no
think-
secret sauce, right?
Not really, no.
Bench
It's just
versus
what-
straight elbows. Trigger
Yeah, but
control.
All
I mean,
the
that
people that
doesn't.
aren't
Yeah,
all the people that aren't retarded will say it doesn't matter.
yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you're not like over exaggerating one way or the
Trying
other,
to
who
think.
cares?
I guess there's some who've really like heavily emphasized trigger control versus grip.
Oh, that's
That's, I
another good
guess-
one actually. That's a good answer.
And I'm on the grip train.
Me too.
But that's not controversial, right?
It is. Or
It is.
Depends who you ask.
yeah.
Oh Lord.
I think in our circle, because we are around each other and then also amongst people who have trained from the same source, we don't run into as much dissonance when it comes to grip versus trigger control. But it's out there for sure. There's definitely the trigger control camp, and like they're good shooters. Like they're not like bullshit.
Yeah, it's a tough one, especially when we listen to the same things. All right. How far do you think it's possible to progress if you're limited to an indoor range and only matches in order to get like 3D kind of shooting rather than single lane?
Does the indoor range allow you to draw?
I mean,
And fire rapid fire, because some indoor ranges allow 1 shot per second.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I think it's reasonable enough to at least get to A in an indoor using an indoor range. Maybe probably could get to M, but it's
Bro,
really
you can
focused.
get to A with just dry fire.
Yeah, I think if you can shoot, assuming you can shoot doubles at the indoor range, then that almost might be the sky's the limit. As far as, because if you can shoot doubles and then just do everything else in dry fire and get feedback on how it's going at matches, it's gonna be less fun than if you can train live at a real range. But like, I think if you're determined and paying attention, you can probably get like as good as you personally can get. I don't know. I don't think the range is limiting you.
We have a prime example of somebody who did nothing but shoot matches and made it to M class in multiple divisions.
Who?
Ryan Wilkes.
Ryan.
Oh yeah, Ryan's good.
Yeah, so he got good the hard way, but it's possible to do it that way.
And I don't even think he considers it the hard way. He just considers it the fun way.
Yeah, he just
Yeah,
doesn't
I
want
mean-
to practice.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to practice, so he literally only
That's-
shoots matches.
He
That's
gets
true.
paid
That
to
is,
practice day, and it's
fun.
pretty much treated like a match anyway.
yeah. So there you go. You can get, at least we know someone who made it to M class in multiple divisions
Yeah.
who doesn't practice.
It's like a 2023 Open M2, like
Yeah.
not like old skill cap.
Yeah, no, he's like actually good. Like period.
Yeah.
About how long are y'all's live fire practice sessions?
Not where I thought that question was going.
Uh,
4
I mean,
inches is
including-
average kings.
Kings. Does he mean long within, like, as far as time goes, or as far as number of rounds
about
goes?
about
Measure
how
it from
much-
underneath.
how many inches is your practice session? No, about how much time.
uh,
as short as possible. I don't want to be
Yeah.
out there all day. You know what I mean? Usually, I'll try to shoot anywhere from like 150 to 400 rounds. Lately, it's closer to the lower end of that.
0 right now.
Yeah, well, and then yeah, I mean, if you're gonna just go out there and do doubles or something, you can get out of there pretty quick. But if you're gonna go set up mini stages, then unfortunately, the nature of that, it's just gonna take longer, moving crap around and whatnot.
Yeah, I think
Usually-
2 hours is a long practice session for me.
If it's
I
by
agree.
your 2 hours, it should be a maximum. Otherwise, you're just burning a lot of time.
Yeah.
You guys think this is one of those things where the number of things you can learn is kind of limited if you're trying to pay super attention, and then also your patience for like, or like your, what do you call it, your ability to be attentive goes down if it's just too long.
Oh, for sure.
Like try
There
doing a
was-
4-hour range session. You are smoked by the end of it. You can't think properly.
I've done that before. I brought like 700 rounds out to the range and spent like 4 hours. That was probably the biggest waste of time and money ever.
Am I allowed to make this question long?
Go ahead.
What do you guys do mentally to like deal with like training seminars and classes where the round count like easily goes 500 to 2000, and it's like you're doing 2 full days of shooting? That's like usually like 8 hours day to day. Do you guys have to like try to compress it, write it down? Because obviously nobody actually shoots that way, like goes to the range 8 hours a day.
Either write it down or type it into like the notes app on your phone. That way, at least you have a record of it.
I'd
You
imagine you're gonna be like you might be able to make it through that, but you're gonna be wiped at the end of the day.
Yeah, I feel like
That
I
would be-
probably
that might-
have retention. I probably have like 5-10% retention on things like that, which I'm happy to have 5%, 5 to 10% on anything at this point. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I feel like that's one of those you might be able to like handle it. 'Cause, I mean, obviously people handle it, but that's just not sustainable. Like you can do that for one weekend, but you're not gonna be able to do that weekend after weekend after weekend.
And it's great if you can get if you can message whoever your instructor was for that weekend, like, hey, I'm having trouble with this one. Can you remind me of like what's going on, that kind of thing? That's great. But if you can't, you really need those notes that you made and any potential video that you also recorded. Moving on.
Yep.
How to acquire a red dot consistently, pistol, rifle, whichever one. And I think, quite frankly, it's just, hey, develop it and dry fire. Like, draw the gun or mount it up, figure out what you're doing wrong, especially at speed, that kind of thing.
Ooh, Matt said
Y'all ever
do
work
good.
at it? Yeah, you guys ever work at it backwards, where you acquire the sight picture first, and then you work your draw to that, whatever that was?
You're doing like a reverse draw kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I've never
I
tried
think
that.
I think starting out I did, just because I was still fairly new into pistols. But after that, it's just, okay, draw. All right, dot is pointing at the top. I need to bring the gun down a little bit, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I assume the person asking this is like extremely new, or they've
Right.
had a problem for long enough that that's probably what would help them the most.
It was a new shooter that was asking.
I kind of feel like people overthink this a lot. It's just don't overcomplicate it. You just need to be able to look at something and then bring the gun to that thing. And so if you're off by a little bit, make adjustments in the way that you grip the gun and go from there. Yeah, that's my opinion. I don't think, there's been some discussion about like pinky pressure and things recently.
And then dropping the dot on top
yeah,
of the target. Yeah.
I think this is a classic case of just like, what's simple. You're just gonna need to practice it. It really doesn't even take that long for something like this, and just like don't distract yourself by overcomplicating it.
So what you're saying is we should do the wave.
I mean, that's what I do, but
Okay.
it's an advanced technique.
All right. Let's say we're being serious for a match that we want to do well coming up. How much dry fire training between range sessions?
Every day.
It's a hard question to answer because like the default is you're dry firing every day, right? And so you
Yeah.
didn't change that. Yeah.
So how long each day are you aiming for?
You just don't change the pattern. I mean, you guys were probably like what, between 5 to 30 minutes, and you might just do it like you put on the pants one more time, 2 more times, like
I don't think my dry fire changes before major matches. What changes is
Yeah.
the amount of live fire I do.
I definitely agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
You might do more live fire, just make sure your grip is like all tuned up.
In general,
think-
I think like 30 minutes with a couple of breaks in between each like thing that you're working on is pretty ideal.
Yeah, and I think that I mean I don't know who asked this question. In my opinion, you're kind of asking the wrong question. I think if you're prepping for a major or something, you shouldn't be thinking how much more do I need to practice. I don't think your schedule needs to necessarily change that much, with the exception of like a little bit more dry fire. I think you should be looking at what you practice and kind of what your mindset during practice is. Like if you're training it for a major, you probably don't want to be like experimenting with new techniques, or realistically you probably don't want to be doing like the whole raw time champ thing the week before a major. You probably just want to be like, if you actually care about that major, if you're looking at the big picture and you don't care that much about the major, then maybe keep doing it. But if you like actually care about that particular major, I think you need to be more worried about like working on things like execution, doing like mini stages in dry fire and live fire, and doing them like once per stage, maximum 2 times per stage, and then change it up. Put as much pressure on yourself as you can, because realistically, like the week before a major, you're not going to get a whole lot better, but you just want to make sure that you can like get used to that pressure that you're going to be putting on yourself, at least as close as possible.
I think that's good. Calvin, since this one actually relates to you closest, most likely, what is the best way to practice without access to real guns? Now, like the closest for you was like borrowing a Shadow 2 since you were going off to Finland. But what do you think
Does
is
this
the best way?
person already have a lot of experience with real guns? I'm assuming no. So
Let's
my
assume.
advice is what?
Let's assume no.
Okay. Then I think you can still be successful in shooting sports. What you won't be able to do is be able to practice a lot of the recoil management stuff, but like the doubles. You can still get good at looking at proper spots, coming off targets, instantly, the accurate and quick transitions and all the movement stuff. So you can work on everything with an airsoft gun or like a replica gun of whatever you're gonna use for the match. So yeah, that's my advice, is to get good at all the non-shooting stuff, which is probably more than what people think.
I think mental simulation is also another thing that you could probably work on as well.
Could you elaborate?
Like trying to envision, or was it visual? Like trying to visualize a stage, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let's open up this one for everyone. What is your last thought before the buzzer goes off? Connor, we'll start with you.
I run through my stage plan one more time. I want that to be like the absolute last thing I think about.
It depends on what I'm working on. These days, it's just like being fucking cracked when I shoot. So, usually something in the theme of raw time champ.
Yeah, I run one more simulation of the stage, and then I'm just when it's are you ready? It's like come on, I'm ready to go, ready to go, ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Usually itching to get to that gun right when the buzzer goes off.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that before. I like that.
I don't have the ready go like itch. I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but
I don't have that either, but I kind of like that. I've never thought about it that way.
I used to have that feeling, but it was more in a negative way of being anxious or like nervous that people were watching. So I tried my best to make that go away, which I think I have. So I'm curious what it would be like now if I were to have that thought of being like ready to grab the gun instantly or start instantly, on make or are you ready? So.
You guys don't come across to me as guys that like have anxiety around shooting it. In fact, you probably maybe a little too bored when you shoot, so maybe it's a thing that would be like good.
Yeah, I think I want to try that. I've literally never even dawned on me to try that, so I like that idea.
Cool. Connor has more step to making GM. All right. This will be an interesting one. are the panel ADHD or more autistic with their training? So
I don't know what the difference is.
do you try to do a whole bunch, like a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, or do you tend to focus on one thing?
Got it. I like chasing one carrot until the next biggest carrot shows up. I think it's a little unreasonable. Actually, I think it's actually stupid to like, if you looked at all of the skills broadly and said, I'm going to spend 5% here, then I'm going to spend 5% here, then I'm going to spend 5% here. Like, one, how do you even quantify 5%? And then two, everyone always can push the envelope in a million places. It just doesn't make sense. Like, it's too much thinking. It's one of those, like, you're overthinking kind of things. Just find the thing that is the most obvious bad thing and just keep working on that until it's not the obvious bad thing.
I think most of us agree with that.
Yep, that's where I've been.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
logistically think about what it would be like if you tried to work on a bunch of stuff at once. So you take like 200 rounds to the range and you're like, all right, I'm going to spend 6 rounds working on this one drill or something. It's like that just like realistically it doesn't make sense. So
I think the times I'll start changing things here and there is if I can get a, like in live fire training, if I can get some type of stage setup that lets me do multiple kinds of starts and ends, and then that way it's like, okay, you get at most two runs on anything, and then you have to change it. You don't get to go back to the same thing. That's the closest I'll get to changing things up. Otherwise, build drills all day.
I'd almost argue that's still one skill that you're practicing, like, and the skill being like execution and chaining a bunch of little things together. Like it's like you're not really practicing like individual target transitions by doing mini stages. You're practicing being able to do a target, if that distinction makes any sense.
Relatively, yeah.
I like to think of it as like you're training your autopilot. Like, if anyone's actively like trying to like manage a specific process, you're automatically going to be like not high performing. So you're programming your autopilot.
Yeah, what do they say? They say you can like consciously think about one thing at a time. So, and if you
Yep.
think about all of the simultaneous things you're doing in a stage, you know, a lot of the things you do have to be automatic.
There's that graph for like the whole like comparison of MBC, MGM, and then like the castle drill or something like that of like automacity. So go ahead and look up what that is. Next question. Do you think shooters overly focus on the perfect grip? And I think it's in reference to newer shooters. I'd have to say yes. Especially for people that are just trying to get in. Like, do I have that perfect drop? No, I need to go back and go try that again, that kind of thing. Did I hit the alpha and the
Say that again?
Do you think new shooters overly focus on the perfect rep?
Oh, the perfect rep. No, I think they do the opposite. I think they do a lot of shitty reps.
Well, I kind of understand it. I think that maybe not everybody, but that's probably a common problem. I remember when I first started, and it's like, what do you see? You want to class up, right? That's one of the first things that I wanted to do. And I'd go practice random classifiers, or if the match announced what the classifier was, I'd practice that one. And you do it 20 times, and it's like, okay, I did one that was like A class or something, and you don't realize that there were 19 of them that were terrible. So I think, yeah, maybe so. It's like, it's better to look at like the aggregate than just individual runs.
I think part of it also plays into which mentality are you. If you're a turtle, I think that you chase more for that perfect rep, and then if you're a hoser, you're going for number of reps. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think the takeaway there is look at the big picture. Don't look at individual reps, because you might have a really bad rep that's not indicative of your skill level, or you might have a really good one that's also not indicative of your skill level.
Yeah. So tell yourself a few things that were good with your rep, and then you also need to tell yourself, this is what I want to improve on, and then focus on that.
I think what people do is they will do these things and not put any conscious effort into like self-evaluation. That seems to happen a lot. So regardless of the person, like the shooting personalities, turtle or hoser, they're doing things incorrectly, but different ways incorrectly. I see that's a very common issue. So like whether you're going slow and like 'cause slow is not correct either, right? Like you want to shoot like make all your motions as quickly as possible while still getting while doing it correctly.
This has been a topic as of late. What is the purpose of the big arcing transition I see some people do? So kind of like you're doing a wide transition. It looks like this rainbow with the gun.
I'll take this one.
Faster.
So this can be controversial. I've talked to other G shooters about this. They actually like it because it artificially introduces some breaks to the transition. You guys ever try to transition like hyper efficiency straight line all the time, and you ever notice that it can be difficult to like make the breaks on like the end point, and you tend to overshoot, and you're like, hey, I feel like I should be a better shooter. And then you do things like it's kind of like doing an off meta thing where you're like, I'll take a slightly longer path to get there, but then you notice like, hey, I make the endpoint perfectly every time when I do this. It's like I think that's the rationale behind it, and I'm kind of actually in that club. I've been told before, I've had feedback before from like PSTG coaching where it's like, hey, your transitioning is too aggressive, like cut it out. And it's like I don't want to like slow it down, but there's this notion of like I don't want to introduce a bunch of unnecessary movement. There could be a story where it's like, is it really unnecessary if it achieves the outcome of like a really fast transition, but without overcooking the finish?
I always thought the arc transition was because you are going up with the recoil. Because if you like transition as soon as your gun went off, like you're not gonna do it like right at that point. The gun's gonna go up a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it goes up from there and then over to the next target, and you have to come back down. But that was my guess.
Koi, since you try, do you notice if it takes any of the relief off of your shoulders on wide transitions?
I can't tell you like why it works better, but it's one of those things. I just like started doing it for laughs, and I'm pretty sure people started doing random Instagram stories, and I noticed the only thing I noticed is like, hey, actually, I miss I miss less of the stops doing it this way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually.
I found myself accidentally doing it occasionally. Like I'll watch a match. Well, you know what I mean. Like I didn't realize I did it, and then I watched the match video, and I was like, that looks kind of goofy.
And then I wonder if you'll unconsciously do it after watching someone.
Yeah, maybe that too. Maybe there's a little bit of that too, actually. Yeah. But no,
I think it's a natural motion if you do the transition with the recoil, right?
I don't even know. Well, maybe I don't know if I would associate it with recoil, or maybe not. I'm not sure. But I think like you were saying, it's just like kind of like a natural motion. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm getting at is maybe don't overthink it. I don't know. But I'd never thought about it the way you described it, Koi, with the whole like being able to like kind of a built-in set of brakes when you do that motion. And so that's an interesting thought. I've never heard that or thought about that.
So I had gotten feedback before from a much better like world beater shooter that was like, hey, don't transition too fast, and it's like your options are to transition slower. That implies like I'm gonna think about the speed of which I transition. When's the last guy you were like? When's the last time you guys were like, yeah, I specifically manage the speed of my transition target? Fucking never happens, right? So, doing like you're referring to like wave transition, right? Basically, like this kind of like this.
Does it have a name?
I think
I've always called it an arc.
I think it's rainbow.
Rainbow, yeah, whatever.
I've heard it arc. Okay, rainbow. We can't call anything the wave anymore.
Are we canceled?
I think the wave's canceled.
Wave's canceled. But yeah, started just one of those things to experiment with, and without thinking extra on it, it's like ended up missing less transitions. And obviously, you're only going to do this on like really wide transitions. It doesn't show up like it's not two targets next to each other. You're like,
yeah. I've also had it come in handy when I was kind of close to a wall, and your options are either to arc the wall, or bring the gun in and then back out again. Obviously, it doesn't work if you're too close, but if you're just at the point where your hands will hit the wall, it
So like
seems
with
to
the
work
ones where you
also.
bring your hands in, you ever notice like you get tons of auto rotation? Like it's fast as fuck, but like you always miss because you're like, whoa, like you're so fast.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, we did it.
So fishing is the main way to go. Got it.
Yes, bowling. We're bowling and fishing from now on. Or which one is this? Oh, this is bowling and this is fishing. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Fishing, bowling.
I neither fish or bowl, so it's tough for me.
Trigger control and speed drill. How much is your dot moving? Ideally, very minimal to none.
The less, the better.
Yep.
Like you should be stacking rounds on top of each other at 7 yards in real life.
There you have it. How to balance time and score for a high hit vector stage. This is coming from a production shooter.
Wait, what's the question?
How do you balance time
Oh, how?
for a high hit vector stage?
It sounds like another wrong question.
I
Like-
think I don't like the question. Yeah, like Koi said, I don't.
Yeah.
I guess you need to look at every single A zone, which means hopefully you're shooting at least 85% of points on the stage, and then you need to shoot it aggressively if the targets are there. I guess I don't look at a stage and think like, okay, let me balance the time with the amount of points I shoot. You know, like that's not the right way
Yeah.
to approach a stage.
I'm
Look,
always
it's
going as
just
fast as I can.
It's just figure out the positions you want to go to, see the spots on the target that you exactly want to shoot. And if there's anything you can round off on the corners, if shooting on the move makes sense for you, do it.
Yeah, I think maybe sometimes there's some where you can you could look at a stage and go, this is probably going to be a comparatively high hit factor stage. So you might tweak your strategy a little bit based on that. But I think if you're asking this question, that is not something you even want to remotely be worrying about. I think you need to like look at all the A zones and shoot the stage as aggressively as you can. Don't think about anything else.
All right, one last question. What drills should beginners start if they're training alone? Calvin.
Training alone. Well, like how much of a beginner are you? Like, do you even know how to draw a gun yet? Like, that's very vague.
For the sake of this podcast, let's say they are semi-experienced with shooting and are going to their first USPSA match. That level of beginner.
I
Oh,
don't.
they're
mean to-
going to their first USPSA match.
Like they've never competed before, but this also isn't the first time they've shot a gun. I don't, because if I mean we could look at it even lower level than that, but it's like, what's the point?
But then I'd be like, well, just figure out how not to DQ. Like those are probably the things I would look at. Like
I
make
would
sure
say
you're-
don't. I would say don't even train. Honestly, like it's pointless.
Yeah.
You're going nowhere with it. Like, do you like shooting because it's fun? Sure. Call it training if you like, but just don't basically don't do it. Like, is there anything you guys thought you knew back when you were like, C D class shooters, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
man, that shit still is awesome today. Like, there's literally zero.
Yeah, I thought I was awesome because I watched them art of the dynamic handgun. Then I went to a USPSA match and I shot a C class classifier. And in my head, I was like, how in the world am I C class? I watched the Magpul DVD. Like I was really butthurt.
I think I read enough online to not be surprised by that. I was like, okay, C class. Sounds
That's
about
fucking
right.
funny.
Yeah.
See, your
I
mistake,
was
Calvin,
pretty
is you didn't
delusional.
buy a Shadow 1, and so your default classing wasn't B class. That was your
Correct.
mistake.
Because I did it with a SIG PT26.
That was the mistake.
I did my first match with a 1911.
You would.
It's the only thing remotely relevant that I had. It was like either that or a revolver back then.
It's like, yeah, all right. So drills, just understand drawing the gun. If you shoot PCC and you choose to do that for your first match, just mounting the gun, removing the safety.
Okay, follow up. Let's say they've shot like 5 matches. They're still a super beginner, but they at least know how to like complete a match safely and not get DQ'd. Because I should have said that from the beginning.
So I think this is almost an exact match for how my first whole year went. Let's not call it 5 matches. Let's call it like 2 or 3 matches a month for the entire year. Let's call it like 30 matches is where I was in. I legitimately believe my whole first year was a waste. Do not practice by yourself. Go find a fucking coach. Don't be stupid. Like it's a worse outcome, like overall. Like I'm just saying this in 6 years of retrospect. If I never had my first year of USPSA, I would be a better shooter in a shorter amount of time. Don't train by yourself. It doesn't make any sense. Go find a coach. Go find even like your random A class guy. Offer to buy him lunch and pay for his range fee if he's not already a member someplace, and have him show you stuff because that would be better, a more reasonable alternative to training by yourself. You will literally get nowhere with it.
Yeah, I think I mostly agree with that.
Watch Art of the Dynamic Handgun.
Oh gosh. So yeah. Yeah, go watch DVDs from 2007, and that's how you get better.
And listen to all of our old podcast episodes.
Yeah, if you would, Connor, if you would upload those into a playlist on the new channel, that would be great.
Oh God, I didn't do that yet, did I?
No.
That's my bad. All right. I think is that all of them?
Yeah, that's all the questions that didn't pretty much repeat itself.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening. If you made it this far, and stay tuned for our next episode. Maybe this year, maybe not.
Yay!